These barges are dredging sand from the bottom of Cambodia's largest river, the Mekong. For 2 decades, Cambodian sand has been feeding the construction booms in Southeast Asia. It's been exported to places like Singapore, where more than 50 square miles of land has been reclaimed from the sea. Sand is the most exploited natural resource on Earth after water. And this kind of dredging has been blamed for riverbank collapses and coastal erosion all over the world. Here in Cambodia, the government is also using sand to fill in lakes around its capital, Phnom Penh, to create prime real estate for villas and shopping malls. But people who have lived and worked on these lakes for decades now face eviction, as trucks full of sand and gravel get closer and closer to their homes.
ពេលដែលគេចោះរូរើហ្នឹងគេអត់មានបានប្រាប់ពួកខ្ញុំមុនទេគេចោះមកគេគេបលុំគេដុតទាំងអស់
Around 1,000 people still live on the banks of Phnom Penh's largest natural lake, Bong Tamok, and they're fighting to stay.
ត្រីចោះពលរដ្ឋពួកខ្ញុំវាថោកទាបណាស់មែនបានមកខ្ញុំមិនអាចរស់នៅទីនេះបានប្រជាពលរដ្ឋដែលស្អាតស្អំហើយស្លូតត្រង់ប៉ុន្តែរងវិវាទនៃការរំលោភបំពានជំរកលំទៅឋានពួកខ្ញុំ
For more than 20 years, Prak Sophia has lived in a house on stilts that hovers over Bong Tamok's waters.
ពីមុនវាជាផ្ទៃបឹងមួយទាំងមូលលំអទៅដោយបឹងឈូកនិងផលិតប៉ុន្តែពេលនេះវាលំអទៅដោយដុំថ្មនិងវាខ្សាច់
The government handed over parts of the lake near her house to private developers in 2021. Today, the wall of dirt is within 300 feet of her dock. Even though she and her neighbors bought their houses, they don't have legal land titles. This is not unusual in Cambodia, since people couldn't officially own land until 2001. But it can leave homeowners vulnerable if the government decides to reallocate land. And that's exactly what happened to her whole community. The government offered them new land if they moved to the other side of the lake. But Sophia wants to stay.
វាមិនមែនជាវិឡាស្កឹមស្កៃវាមិនមែនជាភូមិគ្រឹះធំដុំប៉ុន្តែវាគ្រប់គ្រាន់សម្រាប់នាងខ្ញុំជាការពេញចិត្តដែលខ្ញុំរស់នៅទីនេះវាផ្ទាស់តែម្យ៉ាងថាវារងវិវាទរឿងដីធ្លីតែប៉ុណ្ណោះ
She spends much of her time fighting to save her home and has been to at least 50 protests, including several that turned violent. This one happened in October 2022, when authorities tried to prevent a resident from renovating their house. Police injured 5 people, including Sophia. After the October protest, Sophia and her community asked the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights in Cambodia to defend their right to stay on the lake. But the truckloads of sand keep coming.
ដែលអភិវឌ្ឍកន្លែងណាពលរដ្ឋទឹកភ្នែកកន្លែងហ្នឹងសុំកុំឲ្យមានការអភិវឌ្ឍពួកខ្ញុំរស់នៅប៉ុណ្ណឹងគឺមានក្តីសុខហើយ
The Cambodian government officially marked the borders of Bong Tamok in 2016. 2 years later, it began declaring parts of the lake private property and granting them to the country's elite. 74 acres were handed to the wife of a real estate tycoon. Almost 400 acres went to a wealthy senator, and high-ranking military officials got more than 80 acres. It's all part of a plan to turn Phnom Penh into a world-class city. Since 2003, developers have filled in 60% of the city's lakes. Bung Tum Pun, a lake in the south of the city, was once home to around 1,000 families. Now it boasts a shopping mall and expensive gated communities. It's a glimpse of what's to come at Bông Thamok. Chenda lived on the lake her entire life until she and her husband Tola were evicted in early 2022. They asked Insider not to use their real names out of fear for their safety. The land they lived on was also handed to a developer in 2021.
គេអត់មានថាមានសំណងឲ្យបន្តិចបន្តួចឲ្យពួកខ្ញុំទេព្រោះអីពួកខ្ញុំអស់អាលេងទាំងអស់ពួកខ្ញុំសរសៃខ្ចីខ្ញុំលើកដៃចំពះសុំបងគេក៏គេអត់ព្រមដែរគឺគេកាប់ចោលទាំងអស់គ្មានសល់អីមួយទេទោះបីវិជីជាតិកូនស្អីកូនក៏អស់ដែររាល់ថ្ងៃទោះបីទាំងអង្គក៏វាធាក់ចោលអស់អាលេង
Chenda has 7 children and also supports her widowed mother. They paid nothing to live in their old home on the lake and earned money by selling morning glory, snails, and fish. They used to make the equivalent of a few $100s a week. Now they rent a house a few hundred yards away for $25 a month and struggle to make ends meet. And since they were evicted, Tola can only fish on this small part of the lake.
គ្មានអីកន្លែងណាដែលអាចរកបានដូចមុន
Phnom Penh City Hall and the Ministry of Land Management didn't respond to multiple requests for an interview from Insider.
ពេលអនាគតតទៅមុខទៀតខ្ញុំព្រួយបារម្ភខ្លាចតែកូនខ្ញុំនៅក្រៅវាគ្មានស្គាល់រសជាតិនៅដីភូមិកំណើតរបស់ខ្ញុំទេ
The sand used to fill in Bông Thamok comes from places like Roka Kong, a mining hotspot on the Mekong just 16 miles away.
ពេលនេះខ្ញុំកំពុងតែចង់នាំទៅកន្លែងដែលមានការបូមខ្សាច់អាចថាយើងនឹងឃើញសឡងបូមខ្សាច់ជាច្រើន
Thun Rota is an activist with Mother Nature, an environmental organization in Cambodia. He has risked his life protesting sand mining and the development of Bông Thamok. Dredging in Cambodia's lower Mekong is growing by almost 9 million tons a year. But the environmental impacts can be devastating. Riverbanks here collapsed twice in 2021.
ជារឿងដែលភ្ញាក់ផ្អើលអាចថាជាលើកទី1ដែលខ្ញុំមើលឃើញការបាក់ច្រាំងវែងបែបនេះខ្ញុំមិនដែលឃើញពីមុនមក
Barges harvest more sand than the river can naturally replace, especially since dam building projects upstream have massively reduced the flow of sediment to the lower Mekong. That means more erosion and increasingly unstable riverbanks. Sand mining and reports of collateral damage happen all over the world. It's been blamed for homes collapsing into rivers in Vietnam. In China, dredging nearly doubled the surface area of Poyang Lake, making the waterway more vulnerable to drought and threatening endangered porpoises. Still, river sand is highly sought after because it's perfect for making concrete, the world's most widely used building material. Unlike the fine grains of beach or desert sand, river sand is coarse and sharp, which makes for a stronger concrete. This makes it a valuable export for Cambodia, though it's hard to trace exactly how much is sold internationally. UN data for the past decade shows Cambodia sent $27 million worth to countries like Singapore, Thailand, and China. But environmental rights groups like Mother Nature say Cambodia has been exporting much more than that for years. Between 2008 and 2016, Cambodia declared only $5 million in exports to Singapore. But Singapore reported $775 million in imports over the same period. Cambodia's Ministry of Mines and Energy did not respond to requests for clarification from Insider. In Phnom Penh, the environmental impacts go beyond the rivers. These lakes and wetlands play a key role in lessening the impacts of floods. Without them, NGOs estimate 1.2 million people could face an increased risk of seasonal flooding. But speaking out against what's happening is dangerous. Rota and 2 other environmentalists were arrested in 2020 for protesting the filling of Bung Tamok.
បើសិនណាបើពួកយើងហ្នឹងហ៊ាននិយាយការពិតហ៊ាននិយាយអំពីបញ្ហាដែលកំពុងតែកើតមានឡើងនៅក្នុងប្រទេសកម្ពុជាហើយជាក់ស្ដែងយើងឃើញថារដ្ឋាភិបាលក៏ដូចជាអាចថារដ្ឋាភិបាលព្យាយាមបំបិទសិទ្ធិសេរីភាពរបស់យើង
He was in jail for more than a year and could be sentenced to up to 10 years in prison for his activism.
នៅពេលដែលខ្ញុំចាប់ផ្ដើមប្រឡូកជាសកម្មជនបដិឋានដំបូងហ្នឹងខ្ញុំត្រៀមខ្លួនហើយថាវាសនារបស់ខ្ញុំអាចនឹងប្រឈមមុខនៅថ្ងៃអនាគតអាចនឹងជាប់ពន្ធនាគារអីនឹងជាដើម
For Sophia, too, protecting her home is worth risking her freedom.
ទោះបីជាតស៊ូជាមួយអាជ្ញាធរប៉ះទង្គិចបែបណាក៏ដោយខ្ញុំអត់កាឡាទេពីព្រោះអីបើសិនខ្ញុំជាប់គុកនឹងដីផ្ទះជំរកសម្រាប់កូនរបស់ខ្ញុំខ្ញុំរីករាយខ្ញុំសប្បាយចិត្តជំរកវាជាជីវិតសូម្បីតែខ្មៅក៏ត្រូវការមឈូសដែរដើម្បីបូជាដែរ